Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern. Join me as I invite experts and friends to discuss a range of topics, from the factual and practical to the mystical and magical. Consider this your virtual happy hour filled with lively, authentic, and meaningful conversations meant to inform, inspire, and ignite your curiosity. Whether you are very real or super woo, this podcast is just for you. So welcome to the Real and the Woo podcast. I'm your host, Lauri Stern, and I just want to explain to you guys why I'm even here. Why am I doing this podcast? And I was guided to create this podcast last summer, actually, when I was in a pool with a group of friends of mine with whom I play pickle. But it was really hot that day here in the Chicagoland area. And we decided to bag the pickle and just spend our time in the pool. And this is the same crew that I usually have happy hour with after we play pickle. This is a crew I do a lot of things with. I have a lot of crews, right? I don't know about you guys, but I have groups of friends. Some of them commingle, concentric circle stuff. Some of them don't. And that's just an is thing. It has nothing to do with the people. But we find ourselves, each of us, the hub of a wheel, and probably several. And if we're lucky, like I am, a lot of those wheels do connect. So that aside, we were in the pool and just started chatting. And about an hour later, I realized this needs to be a podcast, just this kind of energy, this genuine, authentic conversations with friends. And if we're talking about topics that we feel so charged up about that we can discuss for an hour, then surely at least one or two listeners out there would be equally inspired to join in the conversation. And so how I got here was during the pandemic, probably like a lot of us, I got into podcasts. And I can't say exactly who, where, what, or why. Probably upon the recommendation of a couple of friends, I started listening to what I would term the more woo-woo spiritual sides of podcasting. And I came across a few that I immediately fell in love with. I liked what they had to say. I really liked the hostesses, the people, so much so that I'd be walking during the pandemic, making notes like, I want to meet this person. I want to teach yoga, somehow with these people. And then I was really charged up when I would be listening to one podcast. And then they had the guest on their show that was the host of another podcast. So it was like, wow, I kind of know celebrities, quote unquote. That was pretty cool. I just came upon this whole spiritual avenue in my life, sort of through the back door, maybe. That'll be a later episode. But for sure, before the pandemic, I went through yoga teacher training with two of my longtime, well-trusted teachers, one of whom is in my pickle crew. And of course, in that teacher training, we learn a lot. We learn about anatomy, we learn about the body, tendons, ligaments. And I had learned all that stuff because way before 2012, when I finally decided to become certified in yoga, I was an aerobics instructor, personal trainer, way back in the day of the heyday of Jim Miller and the Reebok step and the slide, and I was one of those people that for sure followed Maureen Jahan. If you remember who she is, she's the stunt double for Jennifer Beals' character in Flashdance. And I worked at a place in St. Louis where I'm from called Mademoiselle Fitness Spa. And they had Maureen Jahan come and lead us into an aerobics class. And so I was teaching aerobics then. This was like 1985. So from Mademoiselle Fitness to Vic Tanny to moving to the Chicago area, teaching aerobics, step aerobics and all that, I was wearing butt floss like everybody else, scrunchy socks, those high top Reebok tennis shoes, loving life, going to these huge conventions, meeting a bunch of people. So I was really into the body, really into the physical. I had been a dancer my whole life, an athlete my whole life. So the aerobics really fit. But what I was surprised was when I stepped in my first yoga class in 2001 after I had my twins, I hadn't really done any sort of exercise up till that point that really spoke to the dancer in me that was long dormant, and I didn't realize that. So it was just fascinating the way yoga really married the physical side and the lyrical dancer side. And what I was unprepared for and soon became open to was the whole spiritual side of it. So in teacher training, like I said, we went through the, anatomy, ligaments, tendons, the whole thing. And then the other co-teacher brought in the etherical, the more lyrical, if you will, side of yoga, chakras, gunas, kleshas, all of the ways we can meditate with visualization, with sound. And we learned about faith over fear. We learned about how yoga isn't religiously based, but it does take faith to believe in things we cannot see, like the idea that we're all connected to each other, but as individuals, how we are connected to Mother Earth, Gaia, and to divine spirit, whatever that is for you. And that really spoke to me amazingly well. And so it was soon after I finished teacher training that I embarked on a whole journey of what I would call spirituality, delving deeply into the chakras, which now informs not only how I teach, but my business. Besides this podcast, I do customize wellness. And it led me to become certified in Reiki, healing, yoga for TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. I spent years in classes learning about chakras, an entire year in a class going through just the Gita with one of my teachers who will be on this podcast. But back to why I'm here. It was inspired, this podcast, by my friends, not just the ones in the pool, but one woman in particular who you'll meet in an episode next. And because of the work I was doing with her privately in, like I said, my wellness business, she told me the story about her lack of happiness, I guess I'll say. And I was asking her, so what's your day like at work, and how's your life like, and just conversations you'd have. And she let me know through the course of one of our sessions together that she waited the entire day when she got home to sort of check in with how her day went, to the positive or the negative. She waited the entire day to feel good at all about her day. And spirit, like it does now, just kind of pushed me from behind. And like often happens, I just kind of blurted out. I'm like, well, that's too fucking long. You can't wait the entire day to find joy. And I gave her homework. And the homework was to set an alarm throughout her workday that at 5 minutes to every hour, an alarm would go off. She was meant to pause and connect with whatever was bringing her joy, even if literally it was her left eyebrow. I mean, whatever she could, sometimes fake it till she makes it. But the idea is waiting so long to find joy doesn't bring in extra joy, but building joy into your day certainly does. And after our conversation, I was very struck and humbled by her creating a hashtag, which is part of this show, called Joy on the Fives. And there will be notes below to explain that. But since this is my first episode, I want to explain that. And the idea is, if you listen to TV or radio or growing up, like we all did doing those things, we all hear, now it's time for news, weather, traffic on the fives. And we get the news, weather, and traffic. But imagine a world if, no matter what you're listening to, at 5 minutes to every hour, they gave you the news, okay, whatever it's called today. It's just a bunch of people killing each other lately. Traffic sucks and weather is weather. But if you have joy on the fives, imagine that world. And so I'm really guided in this podcast to do a number of things. One is to bring joy to people. And the other is during the pandemic, when I was listening to all these podcasts and recognizing that these people know these people and that information is on this other podcast. And it really just became this whole extra added joyful layer of connecting dots. And I couldn't wait to say, well, you so-and-so have to go listen to this podcast because you're into that. And I found this very interesting, and just really guiding people to listen, not just to what I listened to, but in those conversations, we began to share with each other what they listened to. Maybe I liked it or not, but it was just information. And as a teacher, as a mom, whatever role I play, as a Gemini for sure, I am social, I'm gregarious, I'm communicative, but I have become so extremely impatient and completely enthusiastic about connecting people to people and connecting people to the good ideas and information that other people have. And when you're living your true, authentic path, like I would like to believe that I am a teacher. And I've always meant to be a teacher, and that's a whole other story. But one of the ways that all of my charts that I've had read, whether it's astrology, numerology, human design, you name it, I just turned 59. I'm not ashamed to say I am a sage, and my charts indicate that. I didn't know it necessarily until a few years ago, but I'm totally embracing it and running with it. But because I'm 59, I can't get it fast enough, can't do it fast enough. I'm also meant to be writing books. I was always meant to have my own business, which I'm growing. I'm meant to be traveling. I like to joke in my classes that, I'm like the Elmer J. Fudd of yoga without the mansion and the yacht. So if you guys out there have a mansion and a yacht or a beach location and you want a yoga instructor who also does chakra balancing and Reiki and who sings really well, by the way, I'm your girl. So I'm for hire that way. But the podcast is really meant to inspire, ignite passion, ignite amazing conversation. I feel like podcasts have become the lost art of conversation, which is why I adore them so much. We've really disconnected from each other. And I feel like during the pandemic, podcasts really sought and I feel successfully created connections to people. So that's why I'm here. I want to bring all kinds of topics to the table, fact-based topics, woo-woo topics. You can believe, you don't have to believe. You can look at the name of the podcast episode and say, yeah, it's not your cup of tea. That's okay. Maybe you'll share it with somebody else. But I've talked with a lot of people. I enjoy listening to a lot of people, and I like helping people. I am guided to make a difference in the lives of people. And if this is one of those ways that I can do that, to engage and converse, and there might be some tears, there's going to be a lot of laughter, I can guarantee it. And I feel like the people I know are pretty freaking cool. And so I'm really looking forward to bringing everyone and everything that I know to the people that I know and the people that I don't. And I know in this day and age, it's all about clicks and tricks and 5-star reviews. So at this point right now, I don't have anything else to give you but my undying gratitude for a 5-star review for this podcast. But I will be gathering names. And when I do have one of those lead magnets I'm learning about in the industry, and when I decide that doesn't sound so slimy to me, I will create something that means something. And anytime I have a guest on my show that wants to offer their product for a discount to my listeners, I will 100% do that. And that's also one of my goals. So thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me have this platform where I can hopefully spread a lot of joy, information, make a lot of connections, and just have some fun. So I hope that you enjoy what's to come. And thanks a lot for listening. Bye.